Hi. Hello, everybody. Okay, so I got my undergraduate degree in marketing, and I had no clue what I wanted to do. Truly had no clue. Went to work for IBM, and I cannot say that I was a resounding success there. I encountered the Navy, sold typewriters to the Navy. Woo! And I was really shy. And so I kind of bounced around career to career to career. And I mean, I really bounced around. I found that I did a lot of stuff that was really good when I was face-to-face with people, when I was educating them, when I was trying to come up with creative ideas of doing something different. But I didn't know what the names of those jobs were. I could do pieces and parts of jobs that were great. So time passes by, I mature a little bit. I end up working for a high-tech company. Can't even tell you how I got the job. It was friend of a friend, family of a family member. And in fact, ironically, he looked a lot like Uncle Cleve did, Jim. And Fitz Walker looked a lot like Uncle Cleve. And what he did is he had this dream of creating a tool that could see inside the body using satellite imagery tools from NASA, and applying it to the human body. So the idea, now again, imagine this 10 years ago. This is super duper old technology now. You would take pattern matching. Remember we had, was it the Challenger disaster that exploded? We had to figure out how to put that back together. So we wrote code. We had to figure out where the pieces went. We had to write code. So we took all that stuff that put the Challenger back together, and we applied it, or what's called translated it, used translational research, and used that for human imaging. So we took an X-ray, and we essentially scanned it in a scanner to make it digital, and then we applied this research, this software tool, to try to get more information out of it. And what I did for them was essentially sales, because Jim, are you Mr. Sparks or Jim?
Jim is great.
Okay. So Jim is right, everything is sales. My job was VP of Marketing Commercialization. We had 4 people at the company, so basically I was one of the head bottle washers, but they called me a VP. And I went to the National Institutes of Health, talked to the transfer person there, the transfer technology person there, told her what we had, and she put me in touch with a real live brain surgeon. And he wanted to find out if he could find out or determine, could we prevent people from dying from stroke? So we used our imaging tool, looked at images of people who just had a stroke, and we wanted to, look in a crystal ball. So we helped with that, and that was what I did, is I put people together, and I made sure that that everything was done to get the research done. So that was my job. So, okay. We had a lot of disagreements because it was a startup company, and sometimes I thought I was smarter than him, and sometimes he thought he was smarter than me, which he probably was, because he was the one writing the code. Sometimes I was right, and sometimes he was wrong, and that's how it is in a startup company, right? Yeah. Because you're making your own rules as you're going along, because there had never been a company like this. We created something called... we collaborated with NASA. We collaborated with the National Institutes of Health's National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke to create a new kind of research. And that had never been done with a teeny tiny little company like this. So that was sort of groundbreaking. And as a teeny tiny little company, we ended up getting millions of dollars worth of research free. This benefits the government because they paid for this research. Actually, you paid for this research. And your parents paid for this research, and your parents paid for this research, and your parents, and your parents, and your parents. So ideally, you want to create more information from this. You want to take research A and research B, and you want it to make research C. You want to make a baby of research C because it's greater than the two pieces. So they want this to happen. They want free research to come up with something greater. So that was what my job was. And I did it really, really well. But we have this friction going on, and sometimes there's that creative friction which comes up with really great stuff. I was able to obtain something called venture capital funding. In other words, I found two people, John Cunningham and Chuck Debois is a French name, and I can't say French. Chuck Debois, and they wanted to give us $500,000 to help develop this product. And the CEO did not want to take the money because he thought he would lose control. And he was absolutely correct, and it would have been great. So we had to part ways because I could not abide by that. And that was okay. I ended up going for my MBA. I got my MBA. I wanted to be a product manager. I wanted to be like someone at a Nabisco. And I wanted to sell food. And nobody would have me. I was the oldest person in my MBA class. And nobody wanted me. And so I did what I did when I was in publishing for Better Homes and Gardens, special magazines, special interest publications, and I went to trade shows, and I got all the information I could about different food products, and I finally found this one food product that I saw their market, and I thought, man, that's horrible. I could do tons better. And so I went, and I bought their product, and it happened to be a product that Mars Chocolate created a patent for. In other words, they went around the world, they found chocolate plants in certain parts of the world that actually grew so that the flavanol content, which is the part of the chocolate that is supposed to be healthier for you, because it certainly isn't the fat from the dairy, but the flavanol content was actually higher in these plants. So in certain parts of the world, you have botanical types of chocolate or cacao that's better for you. And then when they found these plants, these beautiful little plants that were healthier for you, then you have to process it. And we know that heat kills flavanols. We know that just from a lot of foods. When you cook it, you lose the good stuff, right? So if you use less heat, you lose less of the good stuff. So they do cold processing. But that's all patented. But guess what? If you're an entrepreneur, you go to the USPTO online, U.S. Patent and Trade Office, and you get to read their patent. It's all there. Anyway, so I sold the chocolate, and it tasted so great. It was these chocolate little pellets. They throw it in this thing that looks like a giant dryer. They squirt in like this cocoa balm, puts the two halves together, it melts in your mouth. It's amazing. And I did so well that I had to buy $250,000 of it for my next order. They wouldn't sell it to me. So now Mars Chocolate is selling it online because I did such a great job and I proved it for them. Damn, I'm good. Anyway, I want to get to Uncle Cleve because I think Uncle Cleve, if it weren't for him, he wouldn't have inspired me. There are some points about Uncle Cleve, and you're going to see the points right here that I knew before. But when I read the book, and I really encourage you to buy the book online or hardcover, it's just all going to make sense for you. Now, there was a silly little thing I did, and I went around and I said, I want you to pick a pen color that's not the usual color that you write in. And the reason is this book is part of a course that usually comes out one of two ways. It's either an intense 3 to 4 day, all-day course, or it's a semester course. I'm not surprising you. You're not being kidnapped, and you're not spending the night here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take down the very vital points that you must have. And if you do not get these vital points tonight, I want you to call Jim, and I will come and I will teach them to you. I'm not kidding. It's this important for your life. Just as sales is not something that salespeople do, an entrepreneurial mindset is something that every single person needs no matter what they do in life. I was so excited when I heard there was an artist here. Woohoo! And he chose green for you, for those who want to know. But anyway, I was so excited because business people need to learn how to work with artists. And artists need to learn how to work with business people. And excuse me, you need to learn how to work with artists also. Okay? Not just with computer people. You all have to learn how to get along and collaborate. Collaboration, number one. So anyway, we don't have a lot of time. Mr. McDuffie was here a few weeks ago, and he told how to give a great presentation. Tonight is going to be the exception to the rule, because he said you should be writing down things and participating along with the speaker, and I totally agree with him because he gave the most amazing presentation. We don't have time for that. So I'm going to beg your mercy. Please do everything I say because we simply don't have time. Okay? I'm going to ask you to participate at very particular times. If you feel the information that I'm asking you is too personal, I respect that. Don't say anything you don't want to say, but I want you to think about it. Okay? So now we're going to get going, and I'm going to go very quickly. We're going to talk about Uncle Cleve. This is Uncle Cleve. This is a period piece, and by a period piece, this was taken, like in the 1950s, 1940s. And this is a very simple-looking guy. He has a very quiet elegance to him. And you may not see it from there. I will pass the book around if you promise not to keep it. On the right-hand side, you can't really tell from where you're sitting, but these are cotton fields. Okay. The man who wrote the book, his name is Cliff Talbert. Cliff Talbert was Uncle Cleve's nephew. When Cliff was 12, he worked in the fields. Cliff did not work in the fields for a man who looked like him. In fact, most of the folks in his community did not work in the fields for a man who looked like him. Almost everybody in his community worked in the fields, except for Uncle Cleve. Uncle Cleve was terribly different. Uncle Cleve had the entrepreneurial mindset before we even had the concept of an entrepreneurial mindset. Cliff had a family member who took him under his wing, and they were committed to making him into someone a little different. So Uncle Cleve, Cleve Mormon, I think there's a certain irony to the name because he was not Mormon. And in fact, I don't believe the book even mentions any religious inclination. But Uncle Cleve one day saw that, he got up to work. He had a great attitude. He came home. He minded everybody and said, "Hey, I've been watching you. I want you to work with me." And so Ma Ponk, who Cleve lived with, said, "Oh, I think this is a great thing. I'm really proud of you." So he goes and he starts working for Uncle Cleve. And Uncle Cleve, as you can probably imagine from the title of this presentation, Uncle Cleve had the only ice house in the Jim Crow South in this Mississippi Delta town. This is pretty amazing, because if you don't know what Jim Crow South was about, you don't know, because I didn't know until just a couple days ago. This was legislated segregation. Okay, this wasn't just a lot of people who were mean. This was legislated by our country. So there were a lot of limitations. Legislated limitations. But there were not legislated limitations on the mind of this man. And that is what is so incredible about this. Okay? And that's what the presentation is about. Okay? So I'm going to jump real quick. And again, Mr. McDuffie, please forgive me. Okay, we have the 8 life lessons of Uncle Cleve. Now, it's going to seem like we're not going to have time to go over 8 of them. What's going to happen is you're going to find that ultimately they're all going to swirl together, and then I'm going to repeat myself. So the first few lessons, we're going to take a lot of time, In talking over the first few lessons, we're really going to be talking about the lessons on the back as well. It will make sense. Please be patient, okay? Choice. When Cliff talks about his Uncle Cleve and about choice, he's not talking about any political issues here. He's simply talking about the choice of when you go to bed at night, when you get up in the morning, what you eat, how you spend your money, how you spend your time, what you choose to do with that time. There are a lot of choices you have in life, and you get to make those choices. Now, you might notice here, and I hope I made it clear enough for you, and all blame is mine if it's not clear. You see the word choice. You see the word yesterday. You do not see a word today. God bless you. You're welcome. You see the word tomorrow. Choice, yesterday, and we look forward to tomorrow. And we work on it today. Yes, sir.
I'm just asking, why we're so focused on yesterday and tomorrow and not focused on the present?
Because we're working on it today. I'll tell you why. Okay. That's a really great question. And sure. His question, I'm sorry, what is your name, Mr.?
Jamal Morris.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Okay, hi, Marcia Schuffman. When I teach class also, I like to, hold on. When I teach class, the first few classes, I refer to people as Mr. and Ms., or however they prefer to be addressed. Because for me, it sets the tone for the classroom. I'm okay for people to disagree. In fact, I kind of like it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
That's right. Disrespect, you get out of my class. After we learn how to disagree with respect, then we can do first names.
Okay.
Cool?
All right.
Great. Okay, so could you repeat your question?
Yes. So I was just asking, why are we so focused on the past and the future right now, and not focused entirely on the present?
Great.
Like what is going on?
Okay. The reason is we're working on today, this very moment. Okay? We're working on today right now as we're sitting and talking. Today is fleeting. We're going to look at what we did yesterday, and we're not going to blame ourselves. There's not enough time for that.
I mean, yesterday is nothing but.
Right, but we can learn from it. And so we can say, and I'll pick on myself, because when I pick on myself, I do it in a humorous manner. Okay? When I pick on myself, I do it factually, though. For example, I had a food hangover about a week and a half ago, and I do get food hangovers. It's like if I eat too much sugar, I wake up the next morning and I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so I had to go to the gym, and it was a gym on Saturday, and I don't work out on the weekends, but I had to work out on the weekend because I had too much sugar in me, and so I had a food hangover. So I learned not to do that. So I look at my past, and I say, I don't think I should do that again. And I look at my future, and I say, I'm not going to do that again. Right now, I'm paying the price. I think I learned my lesson for today. But let's look at something a little more practical, a little less humorous. Maybe that wasn't humorous. Okay. Okay, let's do this. And again, I don't want to pick on anyone, so I'll pick on myself. Had schoolwork to do. I'm not going to look at you, because I don't want you to think it's you. Okay. Had schoolwork to do. Stayed up, watched a really great murder mystery. This is something I would do. Okay. Stayed up late, watched a murder mystery. Had to plan for a presentation that I had to do on the entrepreneurial mindset. Had a closing that I had to prepare for real estate. Didn't get to prepare for my presentation on the entrepreneurial mindset. I was rushed, and I was stressed out. I was in control of all the choices I made. I was the one who created the stress in my life. And in fact, if this didn't print out correctly, I was the one who made poor choices. Could I have blamed a whole bunch of people? Oh, sure. I ran out of ink. I dropped my laptop. I could have said a whole bunch of other things. But ultimately, even if I did run out of ink, it was my fault because I didn't prepare. So what I can do is say, from this day forth, I'm going to work on my sleep hygiene. I'm going to consistently go to bed. I'm going to limit, I'll either record a movie or I'll just say that there are things in life a little more important, like my economic success, my knowledge success, which again is at the bottom of the page right here. As I said, we're going to be touching on a whole bunch of things repeatedly. But these are all my choices that I make. I cannot take responsibility, and I can blame a whole bunch of people, and you're going to believe me. But ultimately, I'm the one who's paying for it. I could have told Jim, again, oh my gosh, it was so insane. There was traffic on the bridge, the printer went out, the cat barfed, all these things that truly could have happened someday, sometime. But it's really hurting me. And it's really letting you guys down. And the reason that I'm here is to support you. Why am I out buying, ridiculous turquoise pencils if I don't want you to retain this information to improve your life and to become more successful? Oh, and by the way, the reason actually that I'm here is that I want Pensacola to be more successful, and I want you guys to stay here. Okay? Don't you look at me that way. So it's all a choice. You can blame a lot of other people for the choices you make, but ultimately it's you. So you can identify the wrong choices you've made, you can correct them today, and you can look towards the future. And that's why I didn't put today down, because the mistakes of the past, but you must always look to the future. Okay? So right here on your sheet, if you want to write down choices that you made that were maybe not stellar, you can write them down. You can retain them in your memory. You can do whatever you want to do. Maybe you don't want other people to see. I understand that. I get it. Again, if you were in a semester-long class, what would happen is you would be writing an essay and you would be submitting this online. That is what the class is about, because you can't hide from yourself that way. So you can either not want to disclose it right now because you don't want your co-learners here to see, and I understand that, or it's because you're hiding from yourself right now. So anyway, let's go on. Let's talk about opportunities. Opportunities, again, are tied into choice. That's why we're going to be working more quickly going through this list, and we're probably going to meet our time limit, okay? Opportunities are everywhere. Uncle Cleve showed you that. Again, he lived in Jim Crow South. Opportunities, any sane person would say, were taken away from him. But in his mindset, in his entrepreneurial mindset that he alone created, there were opportunities everywhere. And let me tell you, by the time the man died, a natural death, okay, he had the ice house. So initially, he bought the ice house. He did not inherit it. He bought the ice house because he saw an opportunity. And by the way, let me tell you, the way that he bought the ice house is he saved everything. He saved all the money he made. And once he got the ice house, his goal was to save 50% of all the money he made. And that is how he eventually bought homes that he rented out. Homes or apartments. I don't know if they went into detail on that, but he rented out homes. He also eventually opened a garage. Now you're going to ask me, how did a man who did not go to high school, how did he fix cars? Well, the other thing to understand is that, oh yeah, let's look on the back side and we're going to see wealth. The man never bought another truck because he taught himself how to fix his truck. So knowledge fits in really well too. Okay? As I said, it's all connected. Okay? So anyway, let's go back to opportunity. You have to look for opportunities. You cannot hide from it. Okay? So what opportunity could you have taken yesterday? How do you want to correct that mindset right now? And what are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do with your future? How are you going to change that? And there are so many different ways of looking at this. You can look at it from, if you're involved with your church, how am I going to do social good? You know, is there something that I could have done better yesterday? Is there something that I can correct today? And what can I do tomorrow? Okay? Okay, so we're going from choice, we're going to opportunity. And again, opportunity is connected to action. Okay? You have a choice to take action or not take action. And they're both equally important. Okay? Jim, you're looking at me like I forgot something. No? Okay.
Thinking about how this all applies to me.
Oh, excellent. That's what this is all about. So thank you. You know, originally, what I was going to do, I was trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out how to make this most appropriate, because I really want this to sink into everybody's head. I want this to become, I don't know, I want this to become, oh, you were supposed to catch it. The idea is that if I was walking around with a bag of groceries and the groceries broke, you would probably say, oh, wait, let me help you. And I know you would, right? Because it's almost like a reflex, because you're a nice person, right? Meh. Okay. All right. You're a nice person. There's got to be a nice person here. Come on, help me out here. Someone be nice. Okay. Let me explain what intrinsic means and why it's important. Reflex. I put a flame under your hand and you go, whoa! And that's a reflex, right? Don't know why you do it, but it's a reflex. You just immediately respond that way. Intrinsic knowledge is knowledge that you have. You're not quite sure. Oh, hey, Keith and Sue. You're not quite sure where you got this information. All you know is you have it. It's part of your DNA, and you can use it. And you don't even think about it. You're coming up to a door, you open the door. I don't know how I know how to open a door, but I know how to open a door. Okay, so that's a very simplistic way of explaining intrinsic information. I want the entrepreneurial mindset to be intrinsic for you. I do not want you to have to think about it. Okay, that's why I'm being so mean to you guys and why I'm being so roughshod, okay, and so firm. I want this to become part of your DNA. I want you to think about the choices you make. I want you to think about opportunities that are out there. What did you miss yesterday? And this is not to say you must beat yourself up. It just means tomorrow you must be better. That's all, okay? That's why we don't have today here. Tomorrow you have to be better, okay? Beating up, that's a waste of time. Don't like that. Okay, we're going to take action when we find something great. We're going to keep our eyes open so we can take action, okay? Knowledge. One thing about Uncle Cleve, whenever Cliff was in the truck with Uncle Cleve, I have this image of him riding in this truck. You know, remember the ice is in the back and they have this thick tarp over the ice because you're in Mississippi and you've got the sun beating down and you've got straw around the ice and you don't want it to melt because that's your money right there. There are books everywhere in this truck. Remember, this guy had his own business. How did he learn how to run his business? This guy started an automobile garage. How did he learn how to fix trucks? He fixed his own trucks. He never bought another truck. He was totally self-educated. You know, he didn't go to school to learn how to educate himself. He was self-educated. And he was a sweet guy. He didn't wear dirty clothes. He wore clean, ironed clothes every single day. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. He was always respectful to everybody. He served white people, he served black people, he served Jewish people. He served everybody in the community. And because he served everybody with respect for himself and for them, he was respected. And again, I can't emphasize enough how difficult it had to be. Okay. Excuse me. And so now we're working on a word, wealth. And I think wealth in 2017 probably has a different picture in your mind as opposed to wealth in 1953, 1955, you know. Wealth nowadays, and we think bling and we think rhinestones and, you know, all that funny stuff. Wealth in those days was not having to go to a grocery store and banging on the back door to borrow money. Okay? Uncle Cleve, his very simple homespun wisdom was, I want to be my own bank. And I'll tell you something else that was very interesting about Uncle Cleve. He deposited money in the bank. How crazy is that? Okay? A black man in Jim Crow South, segregated, actually went in the bank. Yes, he did go in the back way, because again, we're talking segregated South. He deposited money in the bank. He did not borrow money. He put money in the bank. Okay? So how are you managing your money? Are you putting 50 cents out of every dollar that you make? Are you putting it away? I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying, are you even thinking about it? Are you thinking about, you know, do I want to have to borrow money every time I have to make a purchase for something? The words that they use in the book are very, you know, they resonate about the time frame. So, you know, the juke joint, you know, it's very interesting. Again, please read the books. It's a super duper quick read, and it's so loving. It's a great book. Don't spend money you don't got. Be your own bank. You know, what more? So again, did I really need to buy that triple super duper cappuccino with brownies on top yesterday? You know, and get a food hangover to boot. What can I do tomorrow? What can I do? Maybe I can sell some tomorrow at a food court. Okay. So here's a word that we know very well, and I apologize, I am looking at the sheet, and I have failed one student who actually looked at his notes during a presentation. So yes, I am that kind of instructor, and I just did that, and I apologize. I'm sorry. Sorry, student. The next word on this list is brand, and that's a very funny word to use for the 1950s. But the truth is, he lived his brand. He didn't even know what the word meant. But he lived his brand every time he took his hat and he went like this and he smiled at a lady. And a lady was what they were called in those days, not a woman, not a female. Every time he walked by in his creased clothes, and every time he had his pipe in his mouth and his head held high, that was his brand. It was a symbol of self-respect and an expectation of how you should view him. And an expectation of what you know of what his behavior will be towards you. That was a brand. And the irony is that this is a brand today, right? So what is your brand? What are you like? Are you kind? Are you respectful? Do you give information or kindness freely? Do you want people to be successful? Do you collaborate? When you don't get collaboration back, do you wonder why? If you want to be successful, you have to collaborate. And one thing that's really interesting is everybody thinks they have the darn best idea and they never want to share it. I got news for you. You don't have to worry about it because most people don't execute. Do you know what I mean by, well, you know what. When I say execute, you can have a really great idea, but if you don't do the idea, that's called execution. It doesn't matter how great the idea is. So really, you don't have to worry about someone finding out about it because chances are you're not going to do it either. Do the idea, be exceptional. Execute the idea. Okay. Community. Okay. Remember how I said at the beginning that everything is going to swirl together eventually? This is all swirling together. The choices you make impact your community. It impacts your brand. It impacts pretty much so everything. Your wealth, your knowledge, your community. Community might as well be called collaboration, right? As I said a second ago, if you don't collaborate with anybody and then you walk around moping and say, nobody wants to work with me, well, guess what? Why do you think? Okay? You know, I can beat my breast here talking about how I think, you know, artists and computer geeks and all you folks should be working together. At least it should be a mandatory project in college. Because you guys do not speak the same language. Okay? You don't speak the same language. And you need to learn how to speak the same language. You have to learn how to collaborate so that one person is not insulting the other. You have to show respect. You have to collaborate. You have to create a community. You have to learn how to perceive one another and appreciate one another. Okay? And it's really, really hard. And you're still going to mess up with it as you get older. But you have to try. And one other thing, and I thought this was kind of brilliant, and I came up with this myself. You're a garden. Your brain is a garden, and you're planting an orchard right now, and in 20 years, you're going to have fruit. You're going to do a whole bunch of gardening during that time, but you're going to hit your peak around 40, and then you're going to start doing really, really, really brilliant things. Okay? But cut yourself some slack. Okay? Don't kick yourself when you're down. There are plenty of people who are going to do that for you. Okay, right? I'm sure you've met one or two folks who are like that. I have. Okay? But you still have to do the work. You still have to make the right choices, right? You still have to look for opportunities. You still have to take action. You still have to pursue knowledge. And not just book learning. You have to learn how to interface with people. You have to learn how to understand people. You have to learn new and different things. Things that you maybe aren't even interested in. Okay? How many small business owners do you know who hired accountants or bookkeepers and lo and behold 5 years later found out they had no money? Okay? Well, but I don't want to, I'm not interested in accounting. Well, guess what? It's your company. It's not their company. Well, it was their company for a brief period of time. You need to become a well-rounded person. Okay? So anyway, let's go back real quick. We're looking at choices we made yesterday. We need to improve those choices to have a better future. Okay? We're going to look at our actions that we've taken. What actions did we take yesterday that we can improve so that our future is going to be better? You're not doing this for me. You're here for you. Okay? This is about developing your entrepreneurial mindset. All right? Opportunity, it was supposed to be COA, mind mnemonic device. Okay, so opportunity, anybody can just shout in here when I mess up. It's totally okay. Yes, Larry.
Ms. Marcia, hello.
Yes.
How do you find opportunities? How do you find opportunities?
Well, thank you for asking that question. That's my husband, too. I think one good thing is to ask people for opportunities, to talk to people every day, create a community of your own. For example, just the other day, Larry and I were at ProSource, and we were talking with Keith, who graciously showed up with his lovely wife, Sue, and we were talking about different business opportunities. So what do you do? What do you do? And he was telling us what his wife was doing, and so we learned about a business opportunity that way. You need to learn what is going on in your field. You need to learn what is going on in fields that cross in that field. You need to, wait, let me look in my phone. You asked. Okay, top story, NBC News. Okay, that's old school, sorry. Trending stories, CNN, Fox News, Politico, Vanity Fair, HuffPost, People. Notice how the stuff that I read and the stuff that I listen to are diametrically opposed to one another. I do not think you will ever see someone from Fox News on Huffington Post or someone from Huffington Post on Fox News. Never, ever, ever. Saturday Night Live, Chicago Trib, AOL. There is Sci News Digest. There is Popular Science. There is Bloomberg News, Ars Technica. Science. There's The Verge, Ars Technica, Apple News, The Verge, Slate. Reuters, okay, blah, blah, blah. NFL football, I do that so I can sound like I know what's going on with sports. Quartz, blah, blah, blah. I have some geopolitical stuff that I like to listen to. Biology, SciCast, one of my favorite things. Smithsonian, OZY. That's how I stay up to date. Just yesterday, I was at a collaborative, and someone walked in, and his thing is AI. And so I got a brief tutorial on, and I know I'm going to mangle it. It was the first time it was explained to me. I think I understand it. It was the way, okay, so you use artificial intelligence, and so, okay, so your input of information. Okay. In the olden days, in the 80s, there was a Fabergé organic commercial, and so there was this exponential amount of pretty shampoo pictures that would come up. Fabergé, anyway, there's an exponential amount of neurons that are connected with more information that is coming in, and every time there's more information that comes in, you have an exponential amount of neurons that are created and created and created and created and created and created. And that is AI. And so my background from 10 years ago with hierarchical segmentation is very, very old school. And so, I mean, I've tried to keep up with different things, you know, stepwise software and things like that, but how old school is that? And so the way that I try to keep up with stuff is talking to people who are a heck of a lot smarter than me and who are kind enough to stupid it down so that I can at least understand broad enough concepts so that I can then go and research it. So that's ADHD, sorry, I got off. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry. choice, opportunity, action, knowledge. I'm embarrassed. Okay. Wealth. Lots of different philosophies on wealth, too, and you have to figure out what works for you. Some people believe in leveraging money. Some people believe in, I only feel comfortable with having cash in the bank. You have to figure out what feels good for you. And you can have different advisors argue up and down the wazoo which one is the best. This is definitely not the place to have that discussion. But you need to gain knowledge on that. So again, we're all tying in, it's all spinning together. Okay? You make a mistake with that, that's okay. You move on, you make your correction, and you look to the future. Okay? Branding is always changing. You need to find out what is appropriate for the line of work that you're doing. You need to find out what is appropriate for the volunteer or social interests that you are involved in. You want to make sure that your social and your volunteer interests also coincide with your work interests, and they may all be the same. Your work interests may be your volunteer interests. But you need to make a coherent plan for that. And again, persistence with all of the preceding 7 points. And I think we're done. Do you think so? Jim?
I think it's a great time for some questions.
Okay. Come on, wake up. Yes, sir. Mr. Morris.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just hold on a minute.
So for the brand, like what does it signify?
That's a really good question. Okay. Do you mind if I sit down?
No.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think it can signify. Okay, I'm good. I think it can signify different things. Okay. Let's say that you're working on Wall Street. And I used to live in Manhattan. And I have encountered one or two folks from Wall Street. Some of them, might we say, are not pleasant. Some of them are very pleasant. The ones who are confident are maybe kind of nice because they know what they're doing. They are precise. They are working with large sums of money. They want you to know that you can trust them because they are working with your large sums of money. So for a person like that, you want to make sure that they're not wearing ripped clothing. Okay? We're not talking music moguls because what they're showing is that they are dependable and they are precise. So that is one image, that is one part of a brand. So now let's talk about a college professor. Let's talk about an art professor. And let's talk about a business professor. Two totally different things, right? Let's talk about an art professor who deals in sculpture. Okay? Mm-hmm. Totally different look than a college professor who maybe does marketing. Okay? College professor who does sculpture probably works with gooey clay-like substances. Okay? Maybe a little more creative. Marketing may want to have maybe a more fashionable appearance because they have clients on the side. So they want to be dressed appropriately. You just asked me what appropriate was, and I just used that word again, didn't I? Not appropriate. It all depends who the person or the market is that you are trying to influence. Okay. You're in the music industry. You want to wear clothing that appeals to the person or persons in the music industry that you are trying to appeal to. You are a musician and you want to appeal to consumers. If you're a country western musician, you probably want to wear cowboy boots and a certain brand of blue jeans and a certain type of shirt, and maybe a cowboy hat. It depends if you're going into rock or country. Do you understand where I'm going?
Yeah.
Yay or nay?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, for what you're saying, it's all about like the sort of company that you're most appealed to, that signifies everything they stand for. Like, so
You're saying it beautifully.
like their brand is like everything they stand for, everything, their look, their what they are. And
So what else, in addition to their look, though, what else might be part of their brand that I did not mention? Because I only talked about their look. You brought up that there were other things.
their status, and also I think it's
Could you speak into the mic?
I think it's their status and their reputation that they have to,
Their actions.
and mostly their actions that they have to uphold
Exactly. Yeah.
to spread their brand across.
Right. So think about Uncle Cleve. When he walked down the street, he looked people in the eye, said, "Good day, ma'am." He tucked his shirt in. He was clean. He was on time with his deliveries. He was precise when he left the change. And I don't think I went over that. So your actions are part of your brand. Okay?
Okay.
So the way that you comport yourself is part of your brand. What you wear is part of your brand. Your word is part of your brand. Your reputation is part of your brand.
Okay.
All right? Okay, I think it was a great question. I don't think I did a great job answering it at first, but you
No,
helped me out.
No, you did fine.
Okay.
Well,
All right, anybody other? Yes, sir.
I had
Is this lazy or what? I'm rolling over.
I had a question about the wealth side. So you're saying that on the philosophy of it is that we should. I was researching Elon Musk about what he does, and usually he runs over SpaceX, and so what
I
he
know who
does
he
is, and so what he does.
He's not a
is-
friend of mine, but I do know who he is, yes.
But what he does is that most of the parts for making a spacecraft is like a rocket is just really super expensive. So what he does is that he gets 80% of his resources from his own businesses. They created themselves. So I was saying, what I was wondering was that was that a philosophy that we should try and like use as a foundation, basically, and try in our own businesses or what we want to try and pursue?
I think we are stepping into taxation issues at this point. Talk to your CPA, please. But let me address this. There are a few different points that you bring up with that. Number one, Elon Musk he is taking research from one business and manufacturing from one business, and he is using it in another business. And I think that is so far heads and tails above what we're talking about right here for startup organizations. I deeply respect him. He is just so far out of my league, I cannot tell you. Of course, I know who he is, and I think Teslas are the most wonderful vehicles in the world. But when Cliff Taubert was talking about his Uncle Cleve and was talking about wealth, what he was referencing is the fact that he lived his life not being penurious, not being cheap, but looking towards the future and saying, what do I want to do with my life? How am I going to get there? And the way that I'm going to get there is not by going out to juke joints at night and buying beers or playing games or listening to music. I'm going to do that by focusing in on my future and working my way back. So if I want to, and I'll do it right now, not speaking in the voice of Uncle Cleve, but we'll walk backwards. So let's say, and I'm going to use easy numbers because I'm really bad with numbers and I would need a calculator, okay? So let's say that I want to have $100 in 3 years. That's about my speed without a calculator. Okay, so I want $100 in 3 years. Let's say, okay, so $100 in 3 years, that's $33 a year that I've got to save. Let's say, so $33 a year in 3 years. Wow, so that means, oh my gosh, I can't buy a new dress. I can't have coffee, but I really want to have that $100. I need to be committed to that. It's just what you have to do. So maybe you come up with other things that are of value to you. Okay, so maybe I can't get that new dress, or I can't get that new pair of shoes, or I can't get that, crazy wow Christian Dior mascara that makes me look like Jennifer Lawrence or whatever. But I'll bet I can come up with something that's just as good. There is I think it's a philosophy that comes out of Japan, and it has something to do with goal setting. And you write your goal and you put it on something that you're going to see every morning, and it helps to reinforce it. So if your goal is to have $100 in 3 years, or $100,000 in 3 years, or whatever your goal is, you see it every day. And then you write it down to what you need to do every single day. That's how goals work. You want to get your PhD. That's how goals work. You want to you want to own a duplex so you can live on 1.5 and let the person on the other side pay for it. That's how goals work. You say, okay, so what if I buy, and I'm a realtor, so like this is fresh in my mind, and I'm not advocating that you do this. So let's say that I buy a duplex for $136. The person on the other side goes and they rent that duplex from you for $75 a month. They're paying your mortgage payment for you. That's not bad, okay? Not necessarily real costs, obviously, but that's a goal. And so if you want to go to school during that time, that may help you with your goal. Or let's say that you want to go to school and you don't have the money to do it, so you go and you buy a company that manufactures something, and you get to sell items. Let's say you buy an ice house. Okay, and so that ice house, when you buy this ongoing business, that includes a truck, and so then you have employees, and so maybe you work 10 hours a week overseeing these employees while you go to school, so that you can earn maybe 10 times that amount. Or so maybe it'll enable you to buy other businesses. It's all about goal setting. So let's look at this sheet again. So we're looking at wealth. Wealth is goal setting. Okay? Wealth is persistence. Wealth is knowledge. And do not in any way misinterpret what I'm saying. You should go to school. Okay? I'm not telling you to go buy business and quit school and to read books in a truck. I'm telling you the story of one man and how he made a success out of his life. I'm telling everybody here, you are going to make your own way in life. Okay? This is the structure of how you do it. This is how you create this mindset that is going to enable you to be successful. Okay? So Elon Musk is smarter than probably all of the brains in this room combined. He is truly an extraordinary individual. And I think it's great to have a goal and to have him as your rock star. I have my own rock star who I will not disclose at this time. My husband knows who it is. But it's okay to have your own rock star. It's also okay to have your mentors who are here on earth. And it's a humorous metaphor because, Elon Musk. But it's okay to have your mentors here also. And you don't have to have one mentor who represents everything in your life. You may have a mentor who represents, someone who's coming up with this new operating system that's cooled by nitroglycerin. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. But you may have another mentor who is really brilliant about finance. And I would really encourage you to do that. I encourage everybody to have a mentor. Okay? Sorry, I can blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Well, I hope you'll stick around and talk here afterwards. You're going to stick around?
Sure.
I would very much like to present you with a little
I have
token of
wanted this.
appreciation.
I saw other people get them, and I never knew what was inside.
You never will. No, I'm kidding. But thank you so
Thank you.
much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing your knowledge with us. And I mean, I think I've read about half of the book, to be fair, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. But kind of the way they walk you through this and the way you're talking about these choices and the opportunities and the actions and the brands really do become this entrepreneurial mindset that are going to help you succeed, whether you consider yourself an entrepreneur, or anything else. And just thank you so much for sharing all this with
You're
us
welcome.
tonight.
I'm a little passionate about it.